4 years in electronics, dreamed of building circuits, and ended up debugging Java code in an IT cubicle. Meanwhile, your mechanical friend is doing Python, a civil engineer is in software testing, and an electrical engineer doing DevOps. Sounds familiar, right? Every year, millions graduate as engineers in India, but majority end up in IT or computer science sector. Why? Let's try to decode logically. Namaste and welcome back to Avinashi Tech. This is your host, Captain Logic, for yet another tech talk. Let's start the discussion. Engineering became such a default career path that in India, there's a popular saying, you first become an engineer, then follow your passion. Let us start with the real question. How did engineering become so popular in India in the first place? And where exactly in that timeline did the IT sector suddenly explode? Let's rewind a bit in history. And it all began during the British era. When the empire set out to expand its rule in India, it needed a skilled workforce not for innovation but for modern infrastructure. Railways, bridges, power systems, these were all part of the modern STEM background, and all of it required technically trained manpower. And that's what led to the birth of India's first modern engineering institutions, Thomson College of Civil Engineering, which we today know as IIT Roorkee. Then came College of Engineering Pune and Chennai. In those days, civil engineering dominated. Mechanical and electrical branches came later, but the purpose remained the same. These colleges produced modern engineers who were trained to keep the British machines running. Shortly after World War II, independence came in 1947. India got freedom, but not an industrial revolution. Yes, the first generation of IITs started to emerge, beginning with IIT Kharagpur in 1951, but the journey wasn't easy. There were gaps in infrastructure, a shortage of faculty, and heavy reliance on foreign collaboration to set things up. The first batches of engineers were focused on one mission, nation rebuilding. Computer science courses were available back then, but people were not yet crazy about it. Until the late 1980s, core engineers mostly served in government sectors, railways, electricity boards, natural resources, infrastructure, and research organizations like DRDO and ISRO. The pay was modest but stable, and back then, stability meant status. A government job came with pension, housing, travel perks, and above all, respect. The engineer was the pride of every Indian family. For a society moving away from agriculture, this profession symbolized modern India, education, urban living, and financial security. By the 1990s, modern education became the new business model. Private colleges mushroomed everywhere, and access to engineering was no longer limited to big cities. Then came globalization, and with it, the dot-com boom. Hardware companies in India couldn't compete with cheaper imports, and global demand started shifting towards software and services. That's when the real transition began. Suddenly, there was a surge in software services and IT outsourcing. Global clients, better pay scale, and the rise of companies like Infosys, TCS, Wipro, and HCL created a brand new path for engineers. The dream of building machines slowly turned into the dream of writing code. IT became a separate field from computer science in colleges to cope up with the increasing demand, and within a decade became the default destination no matter whether you studied civil, mechanical, or electronics. The media added fuel to this shift, glorifying placement headlines with massive salary packages from the computer science and IT branches. Naturally, students and parents saw IT as the golden ticket, the fastest route to success. Fast forward to today, you might say the old IT trends are fading, but new ones like AI, cybersecurity, and cloud computing have taken their place. Alright, I think you get the overall picture. But let's pause for a moment and highlight the key reasons why so many engineers switch branches. Reason number one, the obsolete education system. The problem starts right inside our colleges. Most faculty members come from the same outdated system and they teach the same recycled material. For decades, the core syllabus barely changed. Let's be honest. Teaching these topics properly requires real industrial experience or passionate tech mentors, and those only a few lucky students ever get. Then comes the lab reality: limited equipment, non functional setups, or sometimes no lab at all. Students read about sensors, microcontrollers, or machine learning, but never actually build or touch anything. All of this creates a huge gap in the learning ecosystem. So, when it's finally time to choose a career, the easiest and most accessible path becomes obvious: just a laptop, an internet connection, and a coding job. Long live Stack Overflow or ChatGPT, whatever you prefer. And that's how the code to code transition quietly starts for thousands of students every year. Reason number two: the opportunity gap. Let's say you somehow survive the college chaos and still have real passion for core engineering. You start applying for jobs, and the next reality check hits. The number of new factories, R&D centers, or product design units in India is nowhere near the number of engineers we produce every single year. The demand and supply gap is enormous. And even if you manage to land a job in the limited core sectors somehow, chances are you will end up doing maintenance, testing, or sometimes even technical sales. That culture isn't limited to small companies, it exists even inside large MNCs operating here. Instead of designing or innovating, you are often just keeping systems running, sometimes not even in the domain you studied. That's when reality sets in. It's not that India lacks engineers, it's that India lacks engineering opportunities. Reason number three: pay and lifestyle. Let's say you're a positive person, that the opportunity scenario will be different for you, and you enter the core industry as a passionate engineer, not chasing money, but chasing growth. You tell yourself, let's learn, let's focus, the rewards will follow. But as time passes, the pay scales stagnate. Your enthusiasm meets company politics, and slowly the system starts taking you for granted. Meanwhile, your friends in IT, yeah, the same ones you once helped during electronics lab submissions, are now doubling their salaries every few years, or even working abroad. Okay, maybe not in the US anymore, but you get the point. The difference becomes impossible to ignore. Core engineering salaries barely keep up with the living costs, while IT offered better pay, air conditioned offices, and faster promotions. Mind you, there are always exceptions, but we are not talking about those engineers. While I'm no economics expert, let's take a quick look at the numbers. Based on the cost inflation index, what cost rupees 100 in the 1980s would cost close to rupees 1600 today. I couldn't find exact salary data from back then, but core engineers typically earned anywhere between a couple of hundreds or 1000 rupees a month. And here's the catch: the jump in average salaries hasn't really kept up with the rise in living costs. Back then, life was much simpler. Essentials were cheaper, and luxuries were, well, luxuries. Today, it's a different story. High transport costs, expensive rents, fancy food, gym, social clubs, credit card EMIs, and a never ending list of essentials sitting in your Amazon or Myntra cart, waiting for the next sale. The math is simple, and so is the choice. Reason number four: the last ray of light. For engineers who couldn't get through campus placements, the next step is usually to apply at smaller companies or even the popular startup culture, where the starting salary is often equivalent to peanuts, barely enough to survive in any city. Meanwhile, college fees have skyrocketed to new heights. Even in institutes where the labs don't work, the syllabus hasn't changed in a decade, and innovation is just a word printed on the brochure. So, when a student pays such hefty fees and ends up earning one fourth of that as their first salary, it's not just the student's failure, it's the collective failure of colleges, the government, and accreditation bodies like NBA, NAC, and AICT, who seem to prioritize paperwork over actual student outcomes. College rankings have become a joke. I mean, seriously, some universities with questionable teaching standards have top NAC grades. I won't be naming them, but I'm sure you would have seen those huge billboards across every city. So, to escape this unpleasant reality, many take a leap of faith and dive into the pool of IT and software, where at least there's some visibility of growth ahead in the future. These, I believe, are some of the key reasons why so many engineers drift from code to code. If I missed any, drop it down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. But wait, does this mean the future is dark for those who still want to study through engineering or work in core fields? Not really. In fact, with AI getting better at writing boilerplate code and fixing bugs automatically, we will actually see a decline in generic IT roles. Yep, it's coming for you now, IT folks. And that's when real engineering expertise will start shining again. But remember, the old world isn't coming back. The engineers of tomorrow will need to double up their efforts and merge core knowledge with modern tech trends. A civil engineer using AI for structural optimization, a mechanical engineer using AI for generative design, an electronics engineer using machine learning for fault prediction. The industry will demand hybrid engineers, people who understand both the physical world and the digital one. Jobs won't be purely software or hardware anymore. They will be AI powered physical system roles in EVs and battery management, semiconductors and embedded edge AI, smart manufacturing with IoT, energy and grid automation, aerospace, robotics, defense tech, you name it. With India's semiconductor mission gaining traction and certain core focused startups rising in plenty of other domains, we might finally see a real revival in the coming decade. Let's hope engineers get a better environment to build, and let's do our part to make that happen. This is your host, Captain Logic, signing off. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next Tech Talk.